try something a little different today. I'll talk about using an aim trainer like Kovaak to improve LG aim. Because a few of my buddies have expressed interest in improving on the LG side of things. So hopefully this can be helpful to them. I'm not super amazing. I get out aimed a lot by some better aimers in Quake Champions frequently. So, but I think my LG is passable. Like I can hold my own for the most part. Maybe against the normal players. And there's like a really good players that just like melts me before. But I don't know this team. They're just too good. Anyway, if you oh sorry, that's not what I wanted to kick. Okay, anyways, if you want to hit maybe around 40%, hopefully, like on average, as long as you're not always going to hit 40%, but let's say you're playing TDN, right, FFA, where people are not dodging as much, and you want to improve from your LG accuracy from maybe like 33%, 35% to 40% or even higher, I think I might be able to help. Anyways, let's get started. So why am I showing this? This is the settings, because in Kovaak you can actually try to match your settings to whatever game you prefer. They have a lot of settings. If you're playing Valorant, Apex Legends, I believe the Kovaak try to match it as much as possible. And as far as I can tell, I think it works. So that's why I have my settings here as Quake Champions, because I'm trying to make the aiming match the environment and make the environment of this game as close as possible to Quake Champions. That's why I select Quake Champions, and this is basically the settings I use for Quake Champions. I have my FOV in that game at 120, which is a little high, but I'm used to it. My sensitivity is 1.9. My mouse DPI is 800. So I believe that translates to like 25 to 30. It's like somewhere from 25 to 30 centimeters per 360, which is I think a way a lot of people use to measure how much like they need to move, like this sensitivity for aiming. 1.9, 120, 800 dpi. Not too high, not too low, just somewhere like somewhere there. Okay, anyways, let's talk a bit about the scenarios I think is helpful. What I do is I use a cat IC long strafes. Oops, I want to do a challenge. Let's just go back to free play. So free play is like if you don't want to go for high score, because high score is fun. Seeing yourself on the leaderboards, it's nice. Even if you can debate how meaningful it is, or how vain it is, but it's fun. It's fun. So that's why I do it. But for the purpose of demonstration, I'm just gonna use free play mode. The basic scenarios I use for if I just want to chill and practice a bit of tracking when I'm not playing Quake Champions or any other games or doing other things, is I use cat IC long strafes, cat IC fast strafes, it's Timmy NVLG. So basically the scenario I think is called NVLG generally. There's a lot of like variations of that scenario. NVLG 1v1 easy, NVLG 1v1, but it's basically simulating 1v1's LG fight in an open space. I find it's nice, but it's Timmy version. I just like the skin. Like whoever made this mod, added its own more to the scenario. So that's why I'd like to use it, and I recommend it. And also we have this one I also started using recently, LG Series 3 Reborn Very Easy Missile. And a description says some kind of mod from Quake World, so I'm guessing people in the past used this to improve their LG aim. So I think it's pretty reputable, for aiming scenario. Anyhow, that's the form, and I'll basically cover a little bit of what each does. So the cat IC long strafe is basically just you and a dummy, pretty chill scenario. There's a ravine in the middle, and then what you're doing is you're trying to just shoot at the dummy, and you're given a amount of limited amount of space to move around in, so you can practice strafing in that basically. Because there's times where you want to practice just mousing, because the spot does like the long movement, long strafe movement, where he tend to move in direction for a while before you switch in directions. So you can practice trying to, you can practice your smoothness just with the mouse. But because in Quake Champions, right, most of the time you're not gonna be standing still while you're shooting someone, unless they're not aware of your presence, and then you can just get free shots in. But most of the time you're gonna be dodging yourself, dodging incoming rocket fire, dodging incoming OG beam. So I generally find myself to be doing a bit of movement. I don't want to move too erratically, right? There's a bit of a rhythm, because if you just move erratically, you're making it harder to aim for yourself. So you can kind of like try to match the strafe. But we'll talk a little bit more about that later. Anyhow, this is just the scenario. It's a basic scenario. The final, it's like the one I kind of use to warm up, because I find it's just simple and easy, and you have a certain amount of freedom in how you approach it. It's not too intense, so it's nice. Anyway, let's talk about Cat Icy Fast Rate now. It's pretty much the same setup, same room, ravine in the middle, space to strafe in, but it's a little more intense because the ball is gonna dodge and change directions a lot, and he's generally gonna strafe a short distance before changing direction, which kind of looks like what some of the really decent Quake players would do, right? The regame or something, they do the short strafes to show off the aim, because it's harder to react and track someone that's constantly switching directions. At least for me, that's what I find personally. So this is a tough scenario, which will simulate going up against somebody decent in movement. Yeah, and as you can see, it's already a little tough, right? Hitting like 28%, which is pretty low. But it's a technique I'll cover later. Yeah, with this spot, it's kind of hard to just stay still. I guess if you're used to your mouse, if you can make mouse like a smooth mouse movement, then it should be okay. But if you cannot make smooth mouse movement, then you might want to throw in a bit of strafe dodging, or strafe movement, strafing basically. So then you can kind of match the ball, because there's a certain phenomenon when you match the dummy, right? Is that instead of doing like really fast strafe to the left and right, it looks like just standing still. If you can match the movement, like see this? And then if my cross is off, I just need to make micro adjustments because I matched my strafe. And that's how you can sometimes use strafe aiming to make it aiming a little easier on someone that's doing really quick strafes. So if you can kind of try to match the movement. Yeah. Anyways, that's a Cat Icy Fast Strafe. Now let's talk about its TV. Okay, it's the MVLD 1v1 easy. It's TV version. So I think that's an Apex player, a streamer. I don't watch him too much, but yeah, maybe I don't know if he made this or someone made it for him. This is the one, and this looks pretty nice. And this why I like this version of the MV is because you have this nice setup. You have like a wrestling or boxing ring, and then you can bounce yourself into the ropes, which can simulate being jugged by rockets, right? So it's nice to practice that kind of thing. Because I'm really bad with trying to retract someone when I'm being jugged. So I find that this can be helpful. You can use it to help doing that. But otherwise, it's kind of just MVLT 1v1, but with a better skin, like a nicer looking environment. Which, well, maybe I'll show you what MVLT 1v1 looks like normally. Let's take a look. Yeah, see, it's like kind of dull. It's just a box. It feels like you're in a prison. Just like this walled-in brick area, like in the courtyard of prison, and you're trying to hit. It's not bad. I mean, the scenario is pretty much the same. It's the bot that does try to simulate fighting against you with OG. How in the real life, if you're playing against someone that's decent, they might do this. It's like short strafe, long strafe, and then you're in the same area, like in the open area, and you're trying to do the same back to him. Oh my goodness, I can't track. So, oh yeah, sometimes I just lose track completely. In that case, I'll talk about the approach, all the sound for stereoactive stuff later. Alright, so this is MV, but yeah, I recommend it's Timmy because nice looking environment. Anyways, alright, the most recent one I started using is the OTC3 Reborn Very Easy Mezzo. So basically, instead of the pill dummies that we've been looking at earlier, you have this humanoid looking dummy. Suppose this should help because it's easier because the animation of the character model will give you a lot of hints as to which direction the ball would go, right? You can see like the legs doing kind of, and then kind of, it's almost like a tell for when they're gonna switch directions. But personally, sometimes I don't know if it helps a lot because this ball actually, like the hitbox, I feel like it's a little smaller than the pills. So I just think, and the way the accuracy is calculated seems a little different to the other ones. So I tend to miss a lot more in this against the ball here. But yeah, the scenario is like this. You're in a room, you can pretty much move anywhere you want, and then you'll have this dummy that spawns in 4 locations, like left side of the room, right side of the room, front, and then up on the platform. Yeah, perfect for practicing your LG floats, I would say. Yeah, so it's a nice scenario because basically it trains you to react and acquire a target, your first shot accuracy, followed by your normal tracking, and that's pretty much what LG aiming is. I'll talk about this in a bit. So yeah, I think the scenario is nice for that. Okay, then let's talk about LG aiming and some of the serious stuff. Oh, okay, I don't know what that was. Okay, anyways, that's all. So I like to think LG aiming, like tracking aiming, it's a two-step process, right? The first step is to acquire a target. Obviously, you need to place your crosshair over what you're shooting at to shoot at it. The second part is just to maintain your mouse, like try to stick it on that target as much as possible. That's where the tracking comes from, right? Sometimes and then if you're just, if you're not too experienced or too skilled at tracking aiming, what you find is you'll lose track often, kind of like what I'm doing right now. I'm not really good. I never proclaim myself to be an amazing player. I'm just an average player. But so then, you're gonna be losing track. So then, anytime you lose track, what you want to do is you want to, so it's like a two-step process. Acquire target, then track. So if you lose track, then you go back to step 1, right? You reacquire target. But then, so then you can think of, if someone is constantly losing track, then they need to constantly reacquire target, which will make it so that the aim, and if they react really fast, that might be okay, but the aim might look very, shaky or not very smooth, right? So you definitely want to make it look smooth, right? Because if you look at some of the best adheres, Quake Champions, or like Toxic, Serious, Kelt or whoever, the LG looks like it's just sticking on top of the opponent all the time. They have really smooth aim. And that comes from, not having too much tension. I believe it's you don't want to have your muscle too tense. You want to relax. That's one of the key steps. The other step is actually just to practice having, knowing how much to move the mouse and how fast. So this, all you have to do is your posture and sitting position, where your arm is placed, what your sensitivity is for your aim. Stuff you can experiment with. But ideas, you want to try to keep it smooth, but you also want to react fast enough too. So when you inevitably lose track of your target, you can try to retrack pretty fast. Alright. Now let's talk about some of the other concepts or tips and tricks that can help. Just try to straight jump. Okay, so tips and tricks for improving LG accuracy or muscle memory aspect is one, I think, is to try to shoot at a spot. This helps train your smoothness, right, in compensating for your movement. Because when you're shooting someone, really what you'd be just relying on movement aiming or strafe aiming, by trying to mirror the bar. And really what you'd be relying purely on wristing your mouse in Quake Champions or any other game, right? Because you will be fighting someone with LG that's in Quake Champions, and they're gonna have their LG on, and you want to dodge their LG, so you can just mirror. Because if they're good, they'll probably just do mirror on you too, and then it becomes whoever has more stack, whoever hits more, starts shooting first, wins, right? Speed. So you don't want to, sometimes you want to mix in different stuff. You want to try to show the aim off, which means you're gonna have to do some of the movements or change the duration of your strafe before you switch directions. which then makes you cross it like off target, right? You're strafing, and then your opponent's also strafing, so that you have to. So that's where the. So okay, sorry, I almost lost my train of thought. But what I'm saying is that yeah, you will need to rely on both strafe aiming and basically mouse aiming. I think in general to get decent track. It's never just one element, unless you can like isolate a scenario like that. But yeah, so what I would say is you want to practice dodging, but you also want to practice making micro adjustments with your mouse. So like in this case, I'm hitting something like 40% because I've been practicing against the bar a lot. But in the past, I missed a lot. Oh, like right now, you see that bar just like did a long strafe in one direction and like couldn't track it with my mouse, right? Another tip for that kind of situations is to use your strafe key to aim, because instead of like me trying to track and all the way around and basically I sometimes run out of mouse space, I can just move to I can move my mouse a bit and then move to the right. You see like how much distance I can cover just like that, instead of like or I can do this. Yeah, so if you lose track against this spot and then he goes like all the way to the edge of the screen, and then you find you have to whip your mouse to actually reacquire, and it's kind of tough. You can actually just use your movement keys to assist with that. And then once you become you just get muscle memory, right? Because you do it enough times, naturally, intuitively, instinctively, you'll start to like realize it. Maybe before, you don't have to consciously think, oh no, I got like tricky my mouse. You kind of just do it by muscle memory, which makes the whole process easier. So I think sometimes tracking aiming does just come down to like muscle memory. Obviously, there's like theory and knowledge and techniques you can apply, but a lot of times muscle memory. But it's like the application of those theory, like how to use strafe aiming to assist making tracking easier. Because we're now very amazing smooth aimers with perfect reaction times, so there's stuff you can do to make that process easier, right? That's pretty much what I find comes down to. Because I myself haven't unlocked the secrets to perfect, like super amazing tracking like some of the really good players are. Like they have like taunts that make it look really easy. Yeah, I don't have that, so I need to rely on these kind of techniques, my understanding of it. Sometimes I have like good days, bad days, but ideally, the more you practice, it increases your baseline accuracy, so that even on bad days, it's not like it's better than you would when your aim was good. Yeah, and that's okay. That's pretty much it. Sorry, I ramble a little more, too much. Yeah, maybe I should talk a bit of technique. Okay, there's another playlist called Movement. This one has a lot of tracking scenarios, which is good. Like the prolonged dodge, the close mid-strafe dodge, anti-mirror, and mirror are all good scenarios for practicing track aiming. They're not the ones I usually use, because this playlist I only recently started using this movement playlist, but I find it's helpful. Yeah, but what this does is like these scenarios are pretty much just for practicing your. It's essentially its team, but differently. And the prolonged dodge is actually just you aiming at this strap, like a 3-cent dummy in the middle. I'll show. So it looks like this. I don't know if I already showed it in this video yet. I see I have it, but this is what it looks like. So essentially, it's just your mouse and trying to compensate for your strafe. Because when you strafe, right, your cross is going to be strung off course of what it was aiming at originally. So you want to use that mouse to keep it and running out pads spaces. So I have to like recenter my mouse and running out pivot. So I'm using my wrist right now. Yeah, anyway, that's that. But yeah. Okay, on the top. So now I just mentioned wrist. I suppose I should cover the topic of posture. But yeah, you don't want to, general advice of playing games. You don't want to sit in bad posture, right? Because it can lead to health issues down the line. So you don't want to have a kind of sitting posture that would cause carpal tunnel syndrome, those kind of things, right? You don't want to be too hunched back while you're playing. No, that's not good. So you do want to try to sit upright in the proper posture as much as possible. Because this helps, right? Because you game for long sessions, eventually your body gets fatigued. And if you sit in like a posture that hurts your body, it's hard to focus because your body starts to feel pain and stuff. So, general advice, just have a proper sitting posture, and even aiming posture too. Like how you place your arm, your hand on your mouse pad, how that is positioned on the desk in front of you. Assuming you're playing on desk. So yeah, generally I find, I like to keep. So they say, you don't want to sit, I think they say like you don't want to. I don't have to apply too much pressure on the wrist, or you don't want to, basically sit too low, right? So yeah. You want to make sure you don't put too much pressure on my wrist. I tend to have my arms kind of flat at 90 degrees and going near to the desk. Except my chair also has an armrest, which sometimes I accidentally use, but I feel like it limits the amount of range I can. Like now that my elbows are resting on this armrest, I pretty much cannot shoulder aim anymore. I have to rely on wrist and arming, and even the arming is kind of limited, so I felt like it's a little easier to just use like the desk as an armrest, and then you can kind of just. But yeah, try to find a setup that works for you. As for the mouse grip, I think it's also worth talking about. Okay, there's two things to talk about, I guess, with posture. When it comes to the arm for tracking me, is that I think whenever I'm starting, like let's say I shoot the spot. And then okay, he's gonna spawn in the middle of the map. When I start aiming at him, I think I generally want to position my mouse as much as in the middle, so that I have like about the same amount of distance that I can aim to my left and right. So in the case that the opponent, like this dummy, let's say, starts strafing in one direction continuous, I have more range, right, to aim. Sometimes I'm still on a mouse pad, then I have to rely on like the strafe keys. But yeah, I think that's just generally it's better because then your arm has the same amount of distance. Okay. And there's also a concept, there's also a thing you can think about. Some other things is whether you're aiming with your wrist or you're aiming with your arm. Because if you're aiming with your wrist, right, sometimes, they serve different function. Like wrist is nice for fine adjustments, like quick adjustments. Arm, generally, it can end a little further, like if you flick your arm rather than flick your wrist. Because wrist, right, let's say I normally my arm, my wrist, that's the pivot point. I cannot like go further than this. So if I need to like track something that's really far away, I can use my arm. That assists the distance. So your arm is good for longest. And I find like with arm, like with wrist, sometimes when maybe your wrist is not in the best angle, it could be kind of hard to track. So with arm, I find it's actually sometimes it's easier to have smooth aim with the arm than with just aiming with the wrist. But the arm is it's something I think that you can experiment with. Maybe if you can mix in both arm and wrist and get used to that, then perhaps that's the best. Otherwise, I tend to like subconsciously aim with wrist or arm, and then sometimes switch when I notice. I don't know like which one is better or worse. It's like a situational in my case. I think it just depends on what I feel like. Nice. And I find myself like using both, right, arm and wrist. Because I don't always reset to the center of the pad. Because like I said, I think that's best, but sometimes it's hard. Sometimes you're trying to straight jump, and then you move your mouse, and then all of a sudden your opponent shows up, and then you have to aim, right? So, anyways, yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't think there's much to cover. LG, theoretically speaking, is about, you know, just trying to stick to the crosshair and so on, while, you know, reacting as fast as you can to reacquire target whenever you lose that tracking, right? And this, like, techniques, I think I mentioned lazy aim, but I didn't cover it, so sometimes there's something called lazy aim, like, and it's best shown in the fast rate. I'll talk about all this to end it. Like, really good. There's some, you know, decent players you'll run into who don't strafe too far, because, you know, it's understood that when you strafe in one direction for too long, it's easy to track, right? If the other player has like smooth tracking skills, they can kind of just like track you like that over long distance. They don't have to really think about flicking or like changing mouse movement, because rapid mouse movement, rapid changes in mouse movement tends to throw people off, right? Especially newcomers to LG tracking aim. Like, when I first started Quake Champions, like someone like those like short, quick strafes, like completely throw me off. I tend to over aim a lot, so that's why this is tough. That's why fast strafe is tough, because it's hard to aim. That's something that moves very quick. So movement, it helps. Using movement, using strafe keys, try to match, or partially match the what the bar is doing, can sometimes make it, you know, can slow the movement down. When you guys both move in the same direction, it'll probably look like the bar is standing still, right? And that helps. So let's say you still struggle, and there's something else I think you can visually use to help, or, you know, you can think about. It's like this, because new players tend to, or even experienced players like I myself, I tend to over aim sometimes too. Like, if I'm struggling to keep track of someone that's doing good movements, like, you can see I do not perfectly, well, but I still hit 50%. So that translates to maybe like 40% or 30%, 38% in Quake Champions. The accuracy is inflated, but that shows something. Like, this thing I like to use lazy aim, where I don't actually like 100% try to track this target. You also, like, you know, people who say, you know, you're trying to improve tracking, you should try to always react to the movement of the ball and try to stick as much as you. But if you're really struggling with that, right, there's a technique where you can kind of just notice that the ball is kind of strafing its place because you're doing the really short strafes. Then you can kind of just put your mouse into like the center. Let's say if you just strafe, let's say, okay, this is that ball's gonna move. I'll just try to highlight this. You see like this brick here, right? This is the left, right. So this is, let's say the ball is strafing at a really short distance in between these two lines. Newcomers, maybe they'll panic and then they'll overshoot a lot. You know, the cross is gonna go beyond the range of the strafe. Instead, what you can do is you can try to keep the cross as much in the middle of that range, so that if the ball either, like, let's say he goes to the left and then he goes to the right, left, right, and then if you keep it in the middle, he's always going to be in, you know, crossing over the crosshair. In fact, like, the crosshair might never leave where he's strafing, right? So it's, if you can identify someone that's doing really short strafe, and if they don't actually strafe far enough, you can actually just aim toward the middle of where they're actually strafing, and then you can hit a lot more than if you maybe like keep if you try to track and over track too much. Yeah, so it's something to think about. And my advice, I guess, I don't know if it's helpful, but I guess you can try to visualize this. Let's say you're sweeping something, you're trying to track the spot that's moving really fast, left and right, and you're struggling. You're overshooting a lot. But then you recognize that he's making small movement over a small distance. You can, instead of over aiming a lot, if you're struggling with that, you can try to visualize, you know, like a I don't know if this is a good metaphor, but what can I say? Well, what can I use as an example? But essentially, you're trying to, you know, decrease the amount of left and right movement so much that you're almost not, let's say you're using mousing, right? You're almost not even moving the mouse, but you're moving it. You're just moving so little. So basically, visualize like you're almost like clamping down on this zone, right? You're like decreasing. I know, like, I see this bar is not moving too much, and I start to like make smoke like that, and that can sometimes work, right? If the bar doesn't, like, if your opponent doesn't move out of the way, you can hit a lot of LG, even though you're not perfectly tracking it, you're not reacting perfectly to all the movements, but you kind of just, hey, I do this is just in this area, I'm just gonna put my crosshair over there in that general direction and never, going too far from that area. And if it all works out well, you can actually hit a lot. But it doesn't work sometimes, right? Because sometimes your opponent might strafe it farther, and then all of a sudden you have to retrack. So then that's something else to be practiced. It's like you have to go back to step one, reacquire target. But yeah, as you can see, there's a bit of movement key, a bit of that lazy aiming technique. You can actually hit quite a bit of LG on someone that's doing this kind of short fast strafe. Oh, 31% now, so good. Yeah, okay, let's see. Okay, let's see if I can make it better. 41%, that's better. Yeah. Oh, yeah, so that's just something to think about. Think about how much you're actually moving the mouse. And notice that a lot of big games, they're using strafe key a lot too, so try to, do that. And if you're struggling, you're moving the mouse too much, try to visualize, decreasing that. Let's say you already moved so far apart, try to actually like physically decrease the amount you're moving. As if the crosshair is starting to like zero in on a short range, right? Like the short zone. So this is the original zone. Then you notice the target is over here. Then you start to zero in on, decreasing the zone you're moving to left and right, and then you rely on your strafe keys so that so you can do a bit of dodging while you're aiming. And then since you're not really able to perfectly mirror the opponent's movement, you use your mouse and make the small corrections. And all this time, you're keeping your eyes on your dummy and the crosshair. And this is for me personally, I think. I look at the dummy and then I try to overlay the crosshair on top. And then just, do that enough, practice it. And hopefully you too should land an average of 35 to 40%. I say that, not hitting like 26% necessarily. But yeah, I think, generally if you practice enough, you'll get more consistent, and it should come easier. And you'll be able to hit percentage you never hit before, right? Because in the past I could never hit 50% on this dummy thing. Now I can hit 50% and 44% here. So yeah, just practice. As some Quake Pro said. That's a bit of fatality. Yeah, practice. It's not like I aim the flow too far, but I quite target. Yeah, it's just practice. Even if you don't have like a perfect muscle memory tracking, just practice will help. That's what I believe. Okay, anyways, that's it. I don't think this is very super helpful. There's a bunch of LG guides, right? Tracking guides, aiming guides out there. And there's probably a lot of really good ones too. So I'm just sharing what I learned about frag gaming through my experience playing Kovaak and Quake Champions. Yeah, sometimes you use Quake Live too. There's a Quake Live LG aiming guide floating out there on Steam. It's by someone named KU, and when I first started practicing LG, I was using that guy, but I didn't follow his advice completely. I just set up the environment. Like basically, the guy suggests you to go to the Thunderstruck map. I think that's what it's called on Quake Live. And then set the opponent, like the enemy bot, to have the maximum health and armor, which is like 999, I think, in Quake Live. And essentially, it's to set up a bot that you can aim at for a prolonged period of time, and you're just trying to. And since you have infinite LG and the bot don't shoot you, right? You pretty much it's just a very safe, good environment. And in that guide, I think one key thing to mention is to artificially, you use the console command to speed up the game speed. So then it's almost like tying weights on you, like one of those anime where you tie the weights on. You wear like this heavy clothing, so like when you take it off, your body feels a lot lighter. And I feel like that's what that guy was trying to go for, right? Increase the speed of the game so that you actually have to like react faster to all the movement. And then when you set it back to the normal speed, all of a sudden, theoretically speaking, everything should look slower and more reactable. So that's one approach. But I didn't follow that because, you know, a little too hard, and also I don't think it's necessary. I think at the very end of the day, you know, some people, you know, maybe really you could use that to help increase reaction time, but I think my, you know, reaction time is kind of just hard capped at an average amount. So instead of that, I try to increase the baseline by using like the smoothness of tracking with the mouse hand, plus my experience with using strafe movement. Yeah, honestly, there's stuff to think about, right? There's stuff you can consider, like, yeah, that's just not I guess the final word. I meant to end up how I did, but I'll talk about one last thing about like using straight dodging. So this is something to know about, but like, while you're reading the strafe like LT fight, I don't think you'll have the time to consciously sync unless the opponent's missing a lot. Then you might be able to sync, but you know, you don't have time to consciously sync, so it'll be kind of just intuitive. But something to think is, or something to be aware of is mirroring and counter strafing. Like when you're moving, aiming with strafe, obviously you're throwing a bit of mouse in to adjust. You can either move in the same direction that your opponent is moving in, or you can move in the opposite direction he's moving in. So if he dodges to the left, then you dodge to the left as well. Like if he dodges to your left, I guess. So he dodges to the right, and then, so that means he's moving left on your screen, and you're moving left. That's called mirroring, right? When you both move in the same direction. In this case, if your crosshair was already on the dummy before you started, like let's say if your crosshair is on the dummy and then you started mirroring, you don't need to move your mouse in, like your mouse hand. So you don't need to use any mouse in, and that's the beauty of mirroring. Because when you introduce mouse in, right, then you need to factor in smoothness, how well your hand can track, like how smooth your crosshair is moving, and is the speed you're moving the crosshair and matching the speed of the dummy strafe. And that changes with distance too, right? So then mirroring is a surefire way to make sure you can hit, because movement is uniform, like movement speed is uniform, right? And if you're theoretically speaking, you know, if you're both moving the same distance on the screen using the movement keys, and you're already hitting, there's no chance you can miss. So that's mirroring. But obviously, you know, in game, if your opponent recognizes you're mirroring, then they can still try to show you off by changing directions really fast, and also they can use the rocket launcher and just shoot where they're moving towards, because they know you're gonna move in the same direction as they will, right? So it becomes a predictable thing. So that's why, you know, I think it's not a good idea to just mirror all the time. Right. Which is why sometimes you need to do counter, move in the opposite direction the opponent is moving. So if you move to the left, you move to the right. And what happens now with how much, or how that affects your mousing is that you need to aim even more than if you weren't moving. Let's say I'm not moving right now, so I always aim just following this movement speed. But if I'm moving in the same direction, then my mouse doesn't need to move. If I'm moving in the opposite direction he's moving in, the distance, the rate at which the distance between us is increasing, well, it's doubled, I guess. I'm not sure if that was the right way to phrase it. Phrasing issues. It's hard, right? I probably should have a little script. Right? Okay, anyways, so what I'm saying is, if he's moving to my left and I'm moving to my, okay, so if he's not to the left and I move to the right, depending on how positioning is, like the distance returns, that means, like theoretically speaking, the amount he's moving away from me is more than if I was standing still, right? If I just standing still here and he's down to the left, I'm moving my mouse like this. But if he's down to my left and I'm also moving to the right, my crosshair is moving to the right at a certain speed, and his character model is moving away from that crosshair also. And yeah, initially if I'm standing still and he's moving to my left, he's not, like, the distance, the rate at which the characters, the opponent is moving away from the cross is just like the fixed rate. But then let's say now I'm moving to my right, then there's that extra gap where I need to compensate for. So then that's what, you know, that's one of the trickiness of countering, is that you have to be kind of aware of that, and, you know, you need to make that extra compensation, that extra increase in distance between his position and your position. So then when you're shooting like at a dummy like this, and you're trying to mix in both strategies, you have to like, you can practice doing it on the fly, right? You're mirroring first, then you're switching into counter strafing. And you know, I think it's a good, that's why I like this one, Kata Ice Launcher, because you can practice on like that. Theoretically, you can probably practice in Steam as well, but yeah, it's just something to be, you know, something to think about, mirroring, counter strafing, and what that means for your power thing. And but you know, once it becomes possible, right, it's not, you're not gonna be thinking about it consciously, because I don't think you have time to think about it consciously. It's more like a subconscious thing. You can't just recognize how much you need to move your mouse, right? And once you, so that's like where the boss memory comes in. Once it becomes almost like an automatic process. You don't have to worry about that. Then you can more like just relax and do your thing, kind of into that flow state. Because like, overthinking can be problematic too. Yeah, anyhow, that's it. That's pretty much it. A very, very basic rambly guide on how to improve LG tracking aim. Hopefully, you know, this has been helpful for whoever's watching this. Alright, goodbye. Oops. Hold on.